So here's a video for your first set of climbing gear. This is a basic tree saddle. This is your first and foremost thing that every tree climber should own. You will simply lay it behind your body. I'll show you from behind. Attach it where it's comfortable. It should be a little snug, but not tight. On the back part, which goes underneath you, there will be leg straps that come through the front. And again, you will tighten them so they are snug, but not tight. The only purpose of these leg straps is to keep this part of the saddle underneath your butt. That way, the entire saddle doesn't slide up to your rib cage. So now that you have your saddle on properly, I'm going to go over the parts of the saddle. These things on the sides here are strictly for utility. You don't want to hang on these. These are for hanging your hand saws and your figure eights and whatnot. You can also tie your ropes to them when you're going up a tree, just to make sure you have them with you. These, on the other hand, are called D-rings. These are your upper suspension D-rings. These are the two that come down in front and they hold you up. These are your work positioning D-rings. These are the ones that you will attach your lanyard to, and in some cases, extra lines. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to assemble and cut all your ropes, tie them to your clips, and where they go on your saddle. You need 2 ropes. You're going to need 1 rope to suspend you. This is going to be called your lifeline. And you need another rope, preferably of a different color, for a lowering line. This is how you're going to take the branches and lower them down from the tree. Tree rope should be tree rope. You can investigate it on the internet and find out which one works for you, but it should be specially designed for tree work, not rock climbing, tree work. There is a core in between these ropes, and they have a little bit of a stretch to them. Other ropes with certain workloads and stuff can and will snag. Also, the outside of the rope is specially designed to rub over tree bark and not get worn away. So the first thing we'll get started with, the most important thing, your lifeline. A good size of a rope should be 120 feet. That will generally get you anywhere from 60 feet up and over the tree. I've ordered a 120-foot rope, and the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you what knot and how to tie your first snap. So when attaching your lifeline to your hook, the one that goes onto your saddle and holds all your life, what we're going to use is a buntline hitch. And the reason we're going to use a buntline hitch is because it's a very small knot and very secure. In fact, it's very hard to untie. We'll go through the eyelet of your hook. You go around the back, over the top, around through, and you'll notice it makes a mini clove hitch right there. You want to make sure you keep that neat as you dress the knot. And address the knot by simply sliding it down and tightening it up. Hook my hook to this trailer hitch, and I have my knot that I just tied. In order to address this knot, and I never want to untie this knot, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it around my hand and give it a good tug. I'm going to put all my strength into it. And now it's locked in. I'll show you one more trick to clean this up. Next trick is electrical tape. We'll just simply tape the two together. And then using our electrical tape, we'll wrap all the way up. And even wrap over the top. And this part right here, I'll use a considerable amount of tape. should end up with a nice clean climbing hitch. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to use the other end of this rope without cutting it and attach it to this clip. Same method with the buntline hitch. Again, this time we'll get up a little closer so you can see how it tightens. And you do it with all your might. You will appreciate if you get your tools ready, make nice cuts with scissors, and have everything nice and organized. It's important to put a lot of care into assembling your tree gear. That way you'll be safe, look organized, and have a pleasant experience while doing your work. You'll have one end, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make what's known as a split tail. We have two ends of the rope, both with hooks attached. Now we have to put a cut in the rope to make our split tail. In order to measure your split tail, you're going to go ahead and hook it to your saddle, hook it to the center of your chest, and lift your arm out. That's going to give us a marker right here. I'm going to mark that with electrical tape, and then we're going to cut it. So all you need to cut a climbing line is a utility knife, a block of wood, some electrical tape, and a lighter. Go ahead and make a nice 3-inch span of electrical tape. You can use our utility knife. We're going to make a cut right in the middle to prevent fraying of the rope. Be careful not to cut your fingers, and just with a sawing action. Now at the end of the rope, simply light with your lighter, just melt the nylon and push it down on the block of wood. Then you should have a nice end that won't fray. So now that we've assembled our climbing line, our lifeline, that is going to attach to our overhead suspension D-ring. Next thing we need to do is make a belt or a lanyard to go from one work positioning D-ring to the other work positioning D-ring, which I have right here. You will need an adjuster. There's many different kinds on the market, and you will essentially make one piece of rope to go over here, attach to a hook, and go over here. We're going to use a different color rope for our lanyard so as not to get confused while we're in a tree. And we're also going to use a very different color hook. When buying your equipment, if you can color code everything, you will save yourself a great deal of hassle. I like the color of this rope. It's orange. They say that people like the color orange tend to be very, very smart and thoughtful people. I don't know if I could call myself smart, but I do know I like to think a lot. Once again, we'll use a buntline hitch. You'll find that you rarely tie this hitch in tree work. Basically, only when you get your new gear. Reason being is this knot does not like to untie. We do want that for our hooks, but not for our tree work. Use something heavier than ourselves. In this case, I'm using a trailer hitch. We will pull on this with all our might. Now I do have a tree job to go to this afternoon, but I'm making a very important decision not to rush, considering I have new climbing gear, and I want to make sure everything's assembled very properly. And the most important part about tree work is that we come home safe and sound to our loved ones, or your cat, whatever it may be. I must say, I do love that color. Okay, so when deciding how long you want your lanyard to be, I find it best to just hook your lanyard to your saddle. When deciding how long you want your lanyard to be, I have no set rule of how many feet or anything it should be. I like to guesstimate. Basically, I will put my lanyard on without cutting the rope. I will pull out enough to know how long I would like to have. I do climb some pretty large trees, old legends, so I think we'll go about that long. I will make my cut right about here. Mark it with tape. Now we have a nice sized lanyard to go from one work positioning D-ring to the other. And when you put your lanyard away, or when you hook your lanyard back up, you want to make sure you leave a little bow there, so as you're climbing you don't hook it with your foot. And for the extra, you can simply make a daisy chain, and you're off and ready. So now we have our high visibility lowering line, which we cut a section off to make our lanyard with. This will be nice and easy to see in the tree as we go around, and we'll be able to know the differences between our ropes. Our other rope is our climbing line and our split tail. This is our lifeline. It's the one that we'll have hooked to our overhead suspension D-ring. We have two different color carabiners for that, and it's all white.